What if everything you were told about success, safety, and the right path in life was actually the thing keeping you trapped? What if the moment you chose comfort over your dream, you started dying slowly on the inside? Most people spend their entire lives doing what others expect of them. They wake up, go through the motions, and tell themselves that one day, they will finally go after what they truly want. But that day never comes. Here is the brutal truth. The treasure you are looking for is not somewhere out in the world. It has been waiting for you your whole life. But fear, doubt, and the weight of other people's opinions have buried it so deep that you can barely hear it anymore. Today, we are breaking down one of the most powerful books ever written, a book that has sold over 65 million copies worldwide, a book that Julia Roberts, Bill Clinton, and Will Smith have all called life-changing. This is Paulo Coelho's The Alchemist, and by the end of this video, you will not just understand the story, you will understand yourself, and you will know exactly what you need to do next. Stay with me. This one will change something in you. Before we begin, if you are new here, welcome to Millionaire Playbook. This channel is not about motivation that disappears in an hour. It is about implementation, real strategies, real mindset shifts, real results. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a breakdown that could change the direction of your life. Now, let us get into it. Part 1. The World's Greatest Lie. The Alchemist opens with a statement so powerful that Paulo Coelho calls it the world's greatest lie. And the lie is this, that at some point in your life, you lose control of what happens to you, and your life becomes controlled by fate. That is the lie most people live by. They believe they had no choice. They believe the circumstances chose for them. They believe it is too late. But the entire story of The Alchemist is built to destroy that lie. The book follows a young shepherd boy named Santiago. He is educated, he is curious, he chose to be a shepherd not because he had to, but because he wanted to see the world. He wanted to be free. And there is something deeply important in that choice. He already had the courage to go against what was expected of him. Santiago has a recurring dream. Twice, a child appears in his dream, takes him to the Egyptian pyramids, and tells him that a treasure is buried there. Now here is the first lesson. The dream came twice. Coelho is telling you something important. The universe does not whisper your purpose once and then go silent. It keeps speaking. The question is whether you are listening or whether you are too busy being practical to hear it. Santiago decides to visit a fortune teller to interpret the dream. She tells him simply, "Go to Egypt, the treasure is real," but she asks for 10% of the treasure in return. Then something even more interesting happens. Santiago meets an old man in the plaza, a man who knows details about his life that no stranger should know. This man is Melchizedek, the king of Salem, and he introduces Santiago to a concept that becomes the spine of the entire book. He calls it the personal legend. Part 2. Your personal legend. The personal legend is what you have always wanted to accomplish. It is the reason you were born. It is that thing you dreamed about as a child before the world told you it was impossible. Melchizedek explains something critical. When we're young, everything feels possible. We are not afraid to dream. But as time passes, a mysterious force begins to convince us that we will never achieve those dreams, and slowly we give up. He identifies 4 obstacles that stand between every person and their personal legend. The first obstacle is that from childhood onward, we are told that everything we want is impossible. Over years, layers of fear, guilt, and prejudice build up, and eventually our calling gets buried so deep we forget it exists. The second obstacle is love. We know what we want, but we are afraid of hurting the people around us if we pursue it. We think love is a reason to stay small, but Melchizedek says real love is an impetus. Real love propels you forward. The people who truly love you want you to be happy, not comfortable. The third obstacle is the fear of defeat.
when you fight for your dream, failure hurts more because you can't pretend you never really wanted it. You can't fall back on excuses. This vulnerability scares most people away before they even begin. And the fourth obstacle is the most dangerous of all. It is the fear of actually achieving your dream, the fear of success, because somewhere deep inside we feel unworthy. We look at everyone around us who didn't make it, and we feel guilty for wanting more. Coelho writes that when your personal legend is within reach, ordinary people commit a series of stupid mistakes and walk away from it right when they are just one step from the goal. The key lesson here is this: your personal legend is yours. The universe placed it inside you on purpose. You are not being arrogant by pursuing it. You are fulfilling your reason for existence. How do you apply this? Right now, today, write down the one thing you abandoned that still calls to you. Don't overthink it. You already know what it is. That dream that keeps coming back no matter how many times you push it away. That's your signal. Part 3. The Crystal Merchant, the Cost of Staying Still. After selling his sheep and crossing into Africa, Santiago is immediately robbed. A stranger he trusted takes all his money and disappears into a Moroccan market. Santiago is alone in a foreign country. He speaks no Arabic. He has nothing. And here is where Coelho teaches one of the most powerful lessons in the book. Santiago has two choices. He can see himself as a victim, or he can see himself as an adventurer, and the outcome of his life depends entirely on which story he chooses to tell himself. He chooses adventurer, and that choice saves him. He finds work at a crystal shop run by an older man who has spent 30 years in the same place, watching the world go by. This crystal merchant is not a villain. He is a deeply human character. He had a dream too. His was to make the pilgrimage to Mecca, which is one of the 5 obligations of his faith. But he never went, not because he couldn't, but because he was afraid. And he tells Santiago something heartbreaking. He says that Mecca is what keeps him alive. He says that if he actually went, he would have no reason to go on afterward. His dream was keeping him alive, not by pursuing it, but by holding on to the possibility of pursuing it someday. This is one of the most profound ideas in the book. Most people don't actually want to achieve their dream. They want to keep the dream alive in their mind so they have something to look forward to. They are addicted to the idea of the future, not the reality of the present. But Coelho is asking you a harder question. Would you rather have the dream, or would you rather live the dream? Santiago works at the crystal shop for 11 months. He brings new ideas. He suggests a display case outside. He introduces selling tea in crystal glasses. The business triples. Santiago earns enough money to buy twice as many sheep as he had before. But at this point, something shifts. He realizes he doesn't want to go back to his old life. He wants to continue to Egypt. He wants his treasure. The lesson here is massive. Comfort will always try to seduce you. When things get better, when the pain is gone, when you have just enough, that's exactly when most people stop. They settle for the improved version of the old life, and they never reach the life they were meant to live. Do not mistake progress for the destination. Part 4. The Language of the World and the Soul of the World. On his journey across the Sahara with a great caravan, Santiago meets an Englishman who is searching for a legendary alchemist. The Englishman has read hundreds of books on alchemy. He carries libraries on his back. Santiago, on the other hand, spends his time watching the caravan, watching the desert, observing animals, listening to the wind. The Englishman says Santiago should read more books. Santiago says the Englishman should pay more attention to the caravan. And they're both right, but Coelho is pointing at something deeper. There is a language that connects all things. He calls it the language of the world, or the soul of the world. It is the universal intelligence that runs through everything, from the flight of birds, to the movement of sand, to the feeling in your gut when a decision is right. Santiago learns this language not through books, but through attention. He develops what you might call intuition, but it is more than that. It is a deep awareness of signs and patterns that most people walk right past. Coelho calls these omens. The practical application of this is simpler than it sounds. You already receive these signals every day. That repeated thought that you keep dismissing, that pattern you keep noticing, that feeling in your chest when you walk towards something versus away from it. Most people explain these away. They call it coincidence, but the alchemist asks you to treat them as communication. The universe is always speaking. Most of us have simply forgotten how to listen. Start paying attention to what keeps showing up in your life, the ideas that return, the doors that keep opening, the feelings that persist even when logic tells you otherwise. That's the language of your path. Part 5. Fatima and the Lesson About Love. At the Al Fayoum oasis, stranded because of tribal war, Santiago meets Fatima. She is a woman of the desert, and the moment Santiago sees her, he knows, not with logic,
but with certainty. He tells her he loves her almost immediately. He asks her to be his wife. But Fatima, in her wisdom, says something that challenges everything most people believe about love. She tells him to go. She tells him to follow his personal legend. She says she is proud of the men of the desert who go, and that the women who wait understand this. She will look to the desert every day with hope, waiting for his return. This is Coelho's most important teaching about love. True love does not ask you to become less. True love does not require you to abandon your purpose. If a love demands that you shrink, it is not love, it is possession. And Coelho goes further. He says that a man who abandons his personal legend for love will eventually resent the person he stayed for, because love cannot be built on sacrifice of the soul. But he also has the alchemist tell Santiago something hard. If you stay at the oasis now, the omens will begin to fade. 1 year of happiness, then doubt, then the feeling that something is missing, then bitterness, and then it will be too late. The question Coelho is asking is not whether you love what is in front of you. The question is whether you love yourself enough to finish what you started. For real-life application, ask yourself this. Is there a relationship in your life or a comfort zone that you have been using as a reason not to pursue your purpose? Write it down, not to abandon it, but to understand it. Because when you are honest about the trade-off, you make better decisions. Part 6. The Alchemist and the Courage to Listen to Your Heart. The alchemist is a mysterious, ancient figure who has lived for centuries and knows how to turn lead into gold. But when Santiago finally meets him, the alchemist does not teach alchemy in the way the Englishman expected. He teaches something far more important. He teaches Santiago how to listen to his own heart. The alchemist says, "Wherever your heart is, there you will find your treasure." But he also warns Santiago that the heart is afraid. It is afraid of suffering. It is afraid of losing what it has. It will tell you stories to keep you small and safe. And if you do not know your own heart, it will betray you when you least expect it. So you must listen to your heart, not to obey it blindly, but to understand it, to know its fears, its tricks, its evasions, and then, with that knowledge, to lead it forward anyway. This is one of the most psychologically advanced ideas in the entire book. Your heart is not always telling you the truth. Sometimes it is telling you stories built from fear and past pain. The only way to tell the difference between your heart's fear and your heart's wisdom is to listen deeply and consistently over time. The alchemist also tells Santiago something that applies directly to every person watching this. Every search begins with beginner's luck, and every search ends with the victor being severely tested. In other words, expect resistance just before breakthrough. The darkest moment of the night comes just before the dawn. If things are falling apart around your dream, it may not mean you are wrong. It may mean you are close. Do not stop digging. Part 7.
turning into the wind, the miracle of belief. The most dramatic scene in the book comes when Santiago and the alchemist are captured by a tribal army. The alchemist tells the general that Santiago can turn himself into the wind. He gives Santiago 3 days to prove it, or they will both be killed. Santiago has no idea how to do this. He is terrified. But over 3 days, he does something extraordinary. He talks to the desert. He talks to the wind. He talks to the sun. He asks each of them for help, and he listens to their responses. And then he reaches beyond all of them. He reaches toward the hand that wrote all of creation. He prays without words, not asking for things, not bargaining, just connecting. And in that moment, he becomes the wind. He moves from one side of the military camp to the other. The soldiers are terrified. The general is in awe. The lesson is not mystical. It is deeply practical. When you fully commit to your personal legend, when you stop holding back, when you speak to the universe from a place of genuine connection rather than fear and manipulation, the impossible becomes possible. The alchemist later tells Santiago, there is only one thing that makes a dream impossible to achieve, and that is the fear of failure. Not lack of resources, not wrong timing, not bad circumstances, only fear. How do you apply this? The next time you face an obstacle that seems impossible, ask yourself, am I approaching this from fear or from faith? Because the same situation looks completely different depending on which lens you use. Part 8. Where your tears fall, there is your treasure. Santiago finally reaches the pyramids of Egypt. He falls to his knees weeping with gratitude, not because he found the treasure yet, but because of how far he has come and everything he has learned. He begins to dig near where his tears fell. And then he is attacked by thieves who beat him badly and take the piece of gold he had. Before leaving, the leader of the group tells Santiago something that changes everything. He says that 2 years ago he had a recurring dream about a hidden treasure in the ruins of a church in Spain, where a sycamore tree grew from the sacristy. He says he was not stupid enough to cross a desert just because of a dream. The treasure had been back in Spain the entire time, at the very place where Santiago's journey began. And here is the final, masterful lesson of the alchemist. The treasure was never just the gold. The gold was always there, waiting, but Santiago could never have found it and never would have truly valued it if he had not made the entire journey. Every person he met, every obstacle he faced, every time he chose courage over comfort, all of it was preparation, all of it was necessary, all of it was the treasure. Coelho is telling you that your journey is not a detour from your purpose. Your journey is the purpose. The wisdom you earn by going through hard things, the character you develop by staying when you want to quit, the clarity you gain from making wrong turns, these are not obstacles to your treasure. They are the treasure itself. Santiago returns to the ruined church in Spain, digs at the roots of the sycamore tree, and finds a chest of gold coins, precious stones, and gold masks, riches beyond what he ever imagined. And then, in the final lines of the book, the wind carries Fatima's kiss across the world to his lips. He had gained everything, and nothing was lost. The 5 core lessons you must take from this book. Let us bring it all together. Lesson 1. You have a personal legend. It is the thing you were born to do. It is still inside you regardless of how long you have ignored it. The universe will keep calling you toward it until your last breath. Lesson 2. The 4 obstacles are universal. Fear, love used as an excuse, the dread of failure, and the guilt of success. Know these, expect them. They are not signs to stop, they are signs you are getting close. Lesson 3. The language of the world is real. Call it intuition, call it omens, call it pattern recognition. Pay attention to what keeps showing up in your life. The universe is not random, it is speaking. Lesson 4. True love expands you. It does not ask you to become less. Any relationship or situation that requires you to abandon your purpose is not love. It is fear in disguise. Lesson 5. The darkest test comes just before the breakthrough. If you are being tested right now, if everything feels hard and uncertain, do not interpret that as failure. Interpret it as arrival.